Hey, welcome everybody. I'm Mark Weathington at J.C. Raulston Arboretum, and today we're in the nursery of the J.C. Raulston Arboretum, or at least a small part of the nursery. We're spread out all over the place. We've got glass houses and 4 or 5 hoop houses and areas out in the sun and under shade. And that's all so we can grow plants for the Arboretum and to distribute to people. And today we're talking about some plants we've got for an auction that's coming up this week, starting, already, that'll run through June 13th, 2025, in case you're joining us later. If you are joining us later and you've already missed this auction, I want to remind you that you can keep an eye on this YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and you'll see other programs like this come up when we have some auctions and plant distributions. But you can also go to jcra.ncsu.edu and sign up for our free cuttings newsletter, and then you'll get early warning when we have these auctions and sales and things, which we have multiple times a year. So love to have you for that. But I'm going to talk about some of the cool plants we have in this auction. Our annual Southeastern Plant Symposium has the most legendary plant auction ever. We've got about, it's looking like we're going to have 400 plus plants for auction, and they are some of the rarest, most hard to find, most unusual things you will ever come across. This is not the stuff you're finding in even a great local garden center. So I'm gonna start off with a plant that I really like. A species. This is a native species of plants. It's called Silphium perfoliatum. Sometimes it's called cup plant because, and I don't know if you can see this, where these winged petioles come up to the stem, it forms little cups. And as this gets older and bigger, those where those leaves meet, they'll become quite big and have water in there. And it is like a bird bath. They really do. You get the small songbirds get in there and splash around in there. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm bad about refilling my bird bath and keeping it clean. So this kind of self-cleans and does all that. So this is a native plant. It's an aster, so it has yellow flowers on it. Silphium perfoliatum can get quite tall, 6-8 feet tall. It's a big plant, big leaves, and with age you'll get multiple stems, and it really is an impressive plant. Dies back to the ground in the winter, or a rosette down low. Now, it's got these big leaves, and they're very rough textured, like sandpaper. Can you hear that? And that's something that typically keeps the critters away from eating plants. They your hosta are much softer than these, so they'll go for other things than this. Now, it's a phenomenal plant, but this is a better one, or a different one. I won't say better. This is one called the Holy Grail. And it's called the Holy Grail because, like I said, this is sometimes called the cup plant. So you got the grail, the cup, and it's gold foliaged. Now, this has been growing in our nursery under some shade. It's not as gold as it will get. I've got one out in the garden, and that's how I test for rabbit tolerances. I put it out in my garden. And it is just as gold as can be. It's already forming a big mound. It was propagated from one of these in our nursery. I'm in love with this plant. It is so cool. This gold cup plant, Silphium perfoliatum, the Holy Grail. That's going to be in our auction. Not sure where else you can find that, if anywhere else. So get on to another herbaceous plant. Now, this doesn't look like a whole lot in the pot, perhaps, but this is a perennial that I absolutely love, and that is really underknown. It's called Chelenopsis. Chelenopsis. I first started growing this plant, Chelenopsis Yagaharena. I love the name. I bought it for the name. I admit it. I wanted to be able to say Yagaharena regularly. This is a different one. This is a hybrid that seems to be a really, really good grower for us. Now, this was growing in our nursery all winter, so in a hoop house, so it never died back. So what we're seeing here is last year's leaves. In your garden, it would have died back to the ground. You'd cut it back. It'd have flushed back out this spring, and the foliage would all be beautiful. So this is a little leggy because of that, but that's okay. Now this hybrid is Chelenopsis, a hybrid between Yagaharena and Moschata, and this is one called Stonewall Pink. And you can see these little almost snapdragon type flowers on here that are, this really deep pink, much darker than the other Chelenopsis. And, part of the reason I wanted to talk about this plant is because as people who knew JC know the legacy of the JC behind JC Raulston Arboretum, he was a real kind of central rallying point for much of the gay community 40, 50 years ago, who were in public horticulture and in nursery horticulture, where you couldn't always, always be out and about. And so since this is Pride Month and this is Stonewall Pink, I don't think it was named for the Stonewall bar, but it may have been, because I believe it was introduced by a gay gentleman. So, but I had to put this out there. I always, every time we come around to this time of year, I think about that. I think about JC's legacy, which was really, really critical at a time when there wasn't that. There's some, I would love to have been a fly on the wall. There are these great stories about, at national meetings, JC would have everybody up into his hotel room and give these really funny, tongue-in-cheek, sometimes a little ribald talks, with plants and great pictures he had taken all over the place. And I've heard they're just amazing. And I wish I could have heard one of those, because people will talk about them who were there and they will be crying, laughing, and just with the memories of it. So I wish I was there. But the great perennials, sun to part shade, easy to grow. I actually grow it in my woodland under high shade. Seems to like that a lot. Probably doesn't want to be super dry. Getting into some things that people say we can't grow, and that's rhododendron. I worked at a garden in southeastern Virginia on the coast, and people would come in and say, I wish we could grow rhododendron. We can't grow rhododendron. They'd be standing under a 15-foot tall rhododendron, large leaf evergreen rhododendron. And there are ones that we can grow for sure. They want drainage. They don't want to be wet. They are susceptible to root rots. But there's a group that are really, really good for us from some of the wetter areas of Southeast Asia that don't get up into the high mountains. This is a hybrid between the very best of those, rhododendron mackinaw, which has a kind of a narrow dark green leaf that kind of curls under and has kind of really nice dark or silvery backs to the leaves. And another one, rhododendron pachysanthem, which is another one that is pretty good for our area, much more resistant to root rot than those. So this is a hybrid between the two. It should have pink buds that open up to pale pink flowers, just based on both the parentages. I haven't seen this actually in flower, but you can see the new growth comes out just covered in these kind of silvery tan hairs, the stem. So once you get a big plant and you've got that mound of dark green, you get the flowers come out and you get those great flowers, and then it flushes out and you have this almost silvery white pale green over the dark green. It's a really beautiful contrast. I would totally grow this plant if it never flowered at all, but it has those big trusses of incredible flowers. So this one is a good one. You want to plant it so that it's not low. Don't want to plant it where it's got excess moisture. If you've got a slope at all, they love being on a slope. But absent that, plant it, pretty close to a shade tree, where it's got competition from the roots. And that keeps it from having excess moisture. I like to do it under pines because when we have that rainfall during the winter, pines are still somewhat active. They're photosynthesizing, they're taking water up. And so that kind of helps with that. Plus, close to the pine usually have some good duff there. They like the acid soil. People talk about how bad the trees are. I can't grow anything under the trees. What you're trying to do is you're trying to plant a big plant under a tree. You plant something small like this, it really gives them time to establish and grow. Love this plant. All right, this dude is funky. I don't know if you can get this, but this is these are not leaves that you're seeing on this. This is the stem. This is another aster, a woody aster, Baccharis trimera. Now, Baccharis is, we have that genus all through the eastern U.S. It's a plant that people generally don't notice because it grows in masses, but then in the late summer, it flowers with these white flowers, then has silvery tan leaves. It's really beautiful, especially along the coast, but not generally much of a landscape plant, although I, for one, do love them. This, however, this weird thing, Baccharis trimera, with these winged stems, is one we collected in 2024. Is that right? Yeah, 24. In Uruguay. This is a smaller, shrubbier plant than some of the other Baccharis, which can get large. I didn't see any over maybe 3 feet tall growing out there. It was growing in kind of a variety of conditions, but where I saw it mostly was open spots, but on the north side of a shrub where it was getting a little bit of shade and protection. I planted one last year, so a 3 or 4 month old seedling I planted in my woodland to see what it would do. It remained evergreen over the winter, and we had a pretty good winter last year, and stayed evergreen, is growing just fine, is actually pushing out like gangbusters this spring. I'm really excited about it. Now, it'll flower with little tufts of kind of yellowy white flowers, and little tufts of yellowy whites of white puffs of seed. It's not going to ever be in your Home Depot or Lowe's or in a White Proven Winners pot because it's a funky plant. It's one of those ones we kind of call bio plants, botanical interest only. If you're a plant nerd, this thing is cool. If most of your gardening is flats and flats of petunias. Nothing wrong with petunias. They come from Uruguay and places like that. But this is probably not your thing because it's not going to put a lot of color out there. I think it'll grow in sun probably just as well as it's growing in shade for me. The high shade does provide a little bit of winter protection, and we haven't grown this long term, but I'm feeling pretty good about it after last year. And I tell you what, people ask about it. They don't ask about the petunias. They ask about this when they come to the garden. So Baccharis trimera, I don't know if there's probably a Uruguayan common name, but maybe winged groundsel shrub. I'm making up that common name on the fly. Okay, here is a mahonia. Now, people love mahonias, people hate mahonias. The ones you see seeding around, which can become a problem, are pretty much the old leather leaf mahonias, Mahonia bealii. And we're not recommending people grow Mahonia bealii. But there are some other great Asian ones that we just haven't seen problems with at all, including this one. This is Mahonia X Emancy. Oh, I'm sorry, I got you the wrong Mahonia. We have several Mahonias in the things. So this Mahonia is a brand new one from NC State Breeding, Tom Ranney's breeding program up in the mountains of North Carolina. This is a Mahonia called Groovy Glow. There's Funky Flow and Groovy Glow. And these are Mahonia that were bred with between several different species of Mahonias that have the most incredible flowers. This will stay pretty small, 4 feet or so tall, not like some that can get really big. And then the flowers on them are this intense gold with orange in them. Really beautiful. They kind of, the Funky Flow, Groovy Glow are kind of a nod to that really bright, kind of almost psychedelic flower colors. A really good plant. We've been impressed with this. We've been growing it for a couple years. It's a great Mahonia with fine texture. It's not spiny like some Mahonias, so it's pretty friendly. And when it flowers, people are drawn to it. I like watching people in the Arboretum. I always watch people, and from a distance, they'll walk and then they'll take a sharp turn somewhere. And so I always have to, once they're gone, I always have to go up and find what drew them to it. And this is a plant that I've seen people make that sharp right turn and have to go up and see what that plant is when it's in flower. So it's an awesome one. Get it now. This is gonna be a plant that is popular, I think, in the trade. But right now it is just brand spanking new. Loving this Groovy Glow. And again, I want to emphasize, we're talking about this for our auction. The auction funds our operations, helps us fund our nursery so we can get you more plants, and it supports the endowment for the Juniper Level Botanic Garden that we're building. And it's really important to remember that when you're doing auctions, whether it's an auction with us or some other nonprofit, it's not a chance to get something for cheap. It's a chance to support the entity and get something cool, a plant in our case. Think of it as you're supporting a great thing, but you're also getting a plant in addition to the satisfaction and good feel for supporting a place you love. So Cornus Kousa, that's the Asian kind of equivalent to our native Cornus florida. Cornus Kousa, this is the Chinese form as opposed to Korean, so subspecies chinensis. And this is a really old one. We always talk about, a lot of these new on the market, not out there. This is a really old one. This is one called Gerard's Nana. So I'd have to go back and look up when this was first introduced, but a long time ago from a nursery called Gerard's Nursery. They did a lot of azaleas, they did all kinds of things, and we're talking decades and decades ago. So Gerard's Nana is a dwarf form of Cornus Kousa. It'll form a single trunk. It'll grow like a dogwood, but it'll be the small and shrubby thing. In 20 years, maybe 10 feet tall. It's a really, really cool little thing. And then it'll flower like the other Kousas. It'll flower after the foliage comes out. So, and then open up with those white flowers on longish petioles up above the foliage. They'll have bright white flowers with long pointed tips on the bracts, not technically flower petals, but you know what I mean. Really cool thing. And for some reason, this dwarf guy kind of disappeared from gardens, you don't see it in botanic gardens anymore. You don't see it other places, but it's still a really, really cool plant. And I love that we were able to get some and get it out to whoever's the lucky bidder on this. We're going to probably keep propagating it and keep distributing it because it's such a cool plant and we don't want it to be lost to cultivation. But sometimes we forget with all the new, there's an awful lot of things that we kind of forget about and need to bring them back into the trade. So Gerard's Nana, Nana meaning small, Kousa dogwood. Cool plant. I shouldn't be talking about all these plants that I really like so much because, I do sometimes bid as well. I got a couple of variegated plants. We've got a lot of variegated plants in the auction. This is another one that we've grown for a long time, and I had in my head that we had distributed this a lot. I went back in our records, and we have not really distributed this except for once or twice many, many years ago. So this is a hydrangea macrophylla, the big leaf hydrangeas. And this is one called Hatsushimo. I always go to Blake if I don't know a Japanese word. Do you know Hatsushimo? Okay. Don't know what that means exactly, but a great, really brightly variegated hydrangea macrophylla. You can tell the big leaf hydrangeas from the smaller leafed Japanese mountain hydrangeas, Hydrangea serrata, just simply by feeling the leaf. The top of the leaf feels almost oily on a hydrangea macrophylla. All right, Blake's guy. He went back in his memory. We won't say you looked at your phone at all.
Right. First frost.
Hatsushimo First Frost. Well, I can only wonder where they got that name. So this makes a nice, a really beautiful little shrub. The new growth, the first frost growth, is really, really intensely variegated. It will green up some over the summer. Otherwise, this thing would barely be able to grow, but it's actually a pretty good grower. So it'll green up a little bit, but every bit of new growth that comes out will be just as white as can be. Has lace cap flowers. Everybody seems to want the big mop head flowers. I love lace cap flowers. I think they're just so elegant, and they're great pollinator plants. The little solitary flies and wasps love the flowers. Like other hydrangeas, this will be blue in acidic soils, pink in basic soils. If you grow these in containers, they'll go to pink, because even if you say, well, I have an acid, pine bark based soil in my pot, it's really not the acidity. It is the availability of aluminum, and to a lesser extent, a little bit of iron. And so in acidic soils, the aluminum is available for uptake. So even if you have it in very acid soils, it's got to have aluminum there. Any of your hydrangeas, if you want them to be more blue, just get some aluminum sulfate and put it down around there, and it'll have more aluminum to take up. Shade for sure on this plant. Yeah. And moisture. Now this is a form of a native plant, Leucothoe, sometimes called fetterbush, dog howl. It's got other names. I just know it as Leucothoe. We didn't get it with a species name, and we haven't grown it long enough to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's Fontanesiana, just based on what I can see as a young plant. This is one we found last year. We were visiting a nursery in Massachusetts, O'Brien nurseryman, and he had this great Leucothoe called Sparkle. And then I saw it at a couple other places up in the Northeast, and hadn't seen it down here in the South at all. So sometimes these things are kind of localized, and nurseries are passing them around, but they don't make it farther. So Leucothoe Sparkle, and it's ranges from a lot of the new growth is almost pure white. Older growth will be green, sometimes with silvery flecks in it. Flowers are little urn-shaped flowers. If you know Japanese pieris or blueberries, that little urn-shaped flower kind of at the ends of the branches, like a lot of plants in that rhododendron Ericaceae family. So like those, it likes a moist, well-drained, acidic soil. It's not a root rot prone plant like some of the rhododendrons and things. So it grows naturally right near swampy areas a lot of times. But I find it pretty easy wherever. Guessing it's going to need shade just based on the amount of variegation in there. But we just got it last year, and it's been doing great in containers. Bunch of little cuttings that we rooted, and man, they've just taken off. This little guy, hard to see the flowers on this thing because there's so much variegation. So, the flowers are there, but they're not going to do much because there's so much other white. Which I was telling somebody that, and they complained. They're like, well, if you can't see the flowers, I'm like, yeah, but you can't see the flowers because the rest of the plant is the color of the flowers. So, and as this gets bigger, the white really shows up more because you have the evergreen older foliage on there that's darker green. And so you get this just kind of a riot of colors. Based on how kind of erratic it is, I didn't see solid green shoots on the plant, the mature plants that I saw up northeast, but I would guess that there's probably got to do a snip here or there when a shoot comes out solid green. Leucothoe sparkle. Now, this is an exciting one for us. Yeah, if you watch a lot of our videos, you know we talk about red buds a lot. The J.C. Raulston Arboretum is a nationally accredited collection holder of red buds. We've done a lot of breeding work with them in conjunction with our director emeritus, Dr. Denny Werner. And this is one of the brand spanking new releases. This is Cercis canadensis, our native Cercis, and it has the lovely cultivar name NC 2014-6. Yeah, -6. I still have to look that up. Doesn't roll off the tongue, even though it's our introduction. But it's sold as Garden Gems Emerald. And there's a whole series of these Garden Gems plants that are out and that are more that will be coming out. These are dwarf trees. There's Garden Gems Amethyst, Amethyst Falls, which are purple leaf ones, Emerald Falls. Expect to see more of those. We've been growing out some of the original plant in the Arboretum, and it just makes this beautiful small tree with a rounded head with these really, really attractive small little green leaves. In the winter, when it loses its leaves, it's got these very distinct zigzag stems. The typical kind of lavender pink spring flowers for red buds, which, as Tim Alderton always points out, are great in salads and things. I had never known that till he told me that they were good to eat. If you eat all the flowers, then you don't have to worry about the seed pods if you don't like those. Win-win. We think these are going to be outstanding plants. We think they're really going to be kind of staples of the nursery industry. So this is your chance to get one really early, I know of the ones here at the Arboretum. I know some that are in production. I know the one at Denny Werner's home garden, and that's really it. I don't know this is any else's personal garden yet. So get on there early. Garden Gems Emerald. Look for the family of Garden Gems plants. All right, I'm not going to put this one up on the table. I'm not going to put it in front of me either. All right, this is a dogwood, beautiful variegated dogwood. I was so excited to track this plant down. This is one of the evergreen species of dogwoods. We have it as Cornus elliptica. That's how we got it. Cornus elliptica Summer Splash. I'm not 100% convinced that it's elliptica and not Cornus hongkongensis. Just based on kind of the feel of the leaf, but they're hard to tell apart. They really are. At any rate, either way, it's an evergreen dogwood. Think of an evergreen Kusa dogwood. It flowers later than our native dogwood, and it has those same long pointed bracts and the larger kind of walnut ping pong ball. Maybe a little smaller than that. Red fruits, which are edible if you want. Great for jelly with lots of sugar in them. But this one is a variegated one. It has this kind of chartreusey edge to the leaf. It's interesting. Usually leaves come out brightest with their variegation, the early leaves, and then kind of get darker. This is one where you can see the new leaves are really kind of beautiful two-tone green, but as they age, they get even brighter in their variegation. This was sitting on our porch, and Tim saw it from about 30 feet away, and Tim likes to try to ID plants from afar, and he said, is that a variegated weeping fig? You know, the houseplant Ficus benjamina. And I was wondering why we got that, and he got a little closer. And he's like, "Oh no, it's a dogwood." Very cool. So it does kind of give the sense of that variegated weeping fig, but it is cool. We got an unnamed one very similar to this from Japan many years ago, and we lost it. We planted it out young, and it just never got established, and we lost it. We lost it during the drought of 2007, where we lost a lot of plants. But this is cool. I will say we ship plants with our auctions, but this is about the largest size we ship. So if you were to bid on this guy or our Garden Gems Emerald Redbud, you're going to have to pick up the plants here at the Arboretum. But that's a perfect opportunity to come visit while you're here. And we've got, we've done some weird genera and some weird species and things. Here is a genus, a group of plants that everybody knows. This is a goldenrod, Solidago. However, and almost all goldenrods are from the New World, from North America down into South America. This, however, is a European goldenrod, Solidago vigoria. It has been the coolest plant in our nursery. I wasn't really familiar with this plant until we started growing it in our nursery. And it has made these little rosettes in these pots, and then it flowers in this kind of low spike that's just covered with the gold flowers, but really, really showy. And I thought, sometimes in containers things can act a little bit weird. And no, this is just how this thing grows. It's so different from the ones that I'm familiar with in the U.S. It has been just an amazing plant. And of course, it's a goldenrod, so the pollinators are going to love it. They don't really care if it's European. I like French food. I like Spanish food, Italian, So this thing is it's a funky little goldenrod. I've had more people when this is in full flower, real excellent plants people come through the nursery, and they look at it and fly like, what is that? It's some sort of aster, but what on earth is it? When I tell them it's a goldenrod, they always scratch their heads. And when I tell them it's a European goldenrod, they're like, I didn't know there was such a thing. Solidago vigoria. So a genus you knew, Solidago goldenrods, to one you probably don't. This is Pyrenaria. This is a Pyrenaria that we don't know the species on. We're still working it out. But Pyrenaria, which sometimes gets put into and taken out of another genera you probably don't know, which is Tucheria, basically a camellia, if you will. We're closely related to our native Gordonia and Franklinia, but in that same family as camellia. So this makes a really tidy evergreen shrub to small tree. Some of the Pyrenarias can get very large. This one seems to stay compact. These fairly small, dark glossy green leaves, and then all these little pale green little balls you see on here, these are all flower buds that are going to open up to 1.5 inch, almost 2-inch white flowers with yellow stamens in the riddle. Just the most attractive little, kind of perfect little flower especially against this dark green foliage. Now, it won't be as dense as a camellia typically, unless you come in right after flowering and do some shearing and things on it. I like the kind of openness on it. It's a plant I like to grow vines through. I think it best with a little bit of shade if you can get it. I think you're going to get some winter damage, some browning leaves if it's out in a full open spot and gets windy and the soil's dry. But just a neat plant. Actually, we found it to be easier than some of the other relatives that are close to it from Asia, like this one is, like some of the polysporas and shimmas. So really awesome plant. And just want to remind everybody, if you're catching this, if you've subscribed, and you're catching this right when it comes out, you can bid on these plants. Just go to jcra.ncsu.edu and there'll be directions for how to get to our rare plant auction. You can also still sign up for online attendance at our Southeastern Plant Symposium, which is what this auction is a part of. But if you're watching this a little bit later, if you're like me and you never can watch things when they come out, you're always, a week, a month, 6 months later, you can still go to jcra.ncsu.edu and you can sign up for our free cuttings newsletter. You'll get sent with that cuttings newsletter updates about upcoming programs and events and auctions and plant sales and those types of things. We don't spam you with all that stuff, but we have a lot going on, so we do send them regularly because there's a lot of updates and programs and things to do. But anywhere in the U.S., continental U.S., when we have an auction, we will ship plants to you if you win them, as long as they are about 1 gallon or smaller. We let you know before you bid whether we can ship it or not. But our goal here at the J.C. Raulston Arboretum is to diversify our landscapes. We think that diversity in our landscapes is the best thing to keep them resilient, keep them disease and pest free. The pests happen when we have too many of the same thing. So the more of these unusual, different, oddball plants that we can get out to gardeners and diversify their landscapes, the better we'll all be. So, come onto the website, enjoy it, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hopefully we'll be seeing you at the Arboretum, or at least seeing you bid on some plants.